Hey, we are live, which is more than the Dodgers could say for a lot of Shohei Ohtani's bobblehead night. Dodgers lost an ugly game to the Reds. We'll talk about some of the fan complaints that come along with a game like this. We'll talk about some injury news about Jason Heyward and Emmet Sheehan, and we will talk about the craziness that was Dodger Stadium for Ohtani's bobblehead and some stuff that maybe the Dodgers could do differently next time, because there will be a next time. Let's dig in. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are with us live. It's just me. I'm Jeff Snyder. It's just me tonight, most likely for the whole episode. Vince was at the game tonight and had car troubles trying to get out of the parking lot. So he is currently probably still sitting in the parking lot at Dodger Stadium, unfortunately. So it's just me. But remember, you can catch this podcast every weekday morning, wherever you get podcasts, or on YouTube. You can catch us live a lot of nights. We've been enjoying doing this. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. Vince Samperio is my co-host, but like I said, it's just me. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we're bringing the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. And getting started, we will. Thank you to those of you who are with us in the chat. I know a lot of you were over there with Pete on the postcast, which Pete Fox does the postcast on Locked On Sports Los Angeles after pretty much every Dodger game live. A game like this, I think he started a few minutes early, but I know a lot of you were there, and I said I might not be able to go live tonight, but then when I found out Vince wasn't going to get home to record with me anyway, I'm like, I'm going live then. We'll see how it goes. It's harder to do a live episode with solo because normally when one of us is talking, the other one can kind of have an eye on the chat, but I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on that. But we were having a discussion on the postcast. I was just in the chat while Pete was doing that episode, and we were talking a little bit, and I see Craig is in here in our chat, and Craig threw out a comment about how the Dodgers should bunt more, and somebody else, I don't remember who it was, but threw out a comment about fire Dave Roberts. And those are probably the two most common things that come up when the Dodgers lose a game, especially an ugly game like this. This game, it was like, if somebody told me on Twitter, the Dodgers just don't seem to like they care tonight. And my reply was, yeah, they often seem like they don't care. It's almost never true because they want to win. But the fact is, sometimes you have a game where to the outside eye, it looks like you just didn't care, when in actuality, what happened was you played poorly and you lost the game. And this was an interesting game because just the state of their pitching. You know, the fact is Tyler Glasnow gave up 4 runs in 5 innings and the Dodgers scored 2 runs. So like you can look at, Elisheva makes the point that Nick Ramirez was bad in the 9th inning, gave up 3 runs. Yeah, he was. Dodgers scored 2 runs the whole night. Those 3 runs ended up not mattering. They might have felt important if it had still been 4-0 in the 9th inning. You know, the Dodgers little mini rally might have felt a little more exciting. In fact, maybe they don't pinch hit for Ohtani and Freeman if they're down 4-0, and instead they can use Andy Pages to pinch hit for, say, for example, hypothetically speaking, Chris Taylor. But the fact is they were down 7-0. You know, I'll get to the bunting in a minute. Craig and I think we've probably talked about this before in the YouTube comments a little bit. But the first one, I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember who it was in the postcast chat, but was saying fire Dave Roberts. And we had those comments after yesterday's game too, the last game against the Giants. Dave Roberts cost the Dodgers this game. And it's like, Dave Roberts put out literally the exact same lineup that scored 10 runs the day before. And that lineup scored what the Dodgers scored in the last game with the Giants, 1 or 2 runs. Okay. Like, how is that Dave Roberts' fault? Dave Roberts pitched a guy who they just called up for the minors. Guess what? He pitched great. If he had pitched the day before when they scored 10 runs, he would have got the win. And it would have been, everything Dave Roberts touches turns to gold. I don't understand the obsession with blaming the manager when the players play poorly, because these are grown men. And if we were talking Little League, maybe there's some element of motivating your team. I coached a game tonight, my son's Colt League team, and the team of our 13 players, we have 4 guys who have played baseball in the last 5 years. Everybody else, it's a bunch of my son's buddies from his wrestling team. Great athletes, and sometimes that shines through, and sometimes they look like wrestlers playing baseball. And you know what? There's not much I can do, even for these guys. They're 16 to 18 years old. Not much I can do to motivate them other than, hey, go play, but there is every once in a while I can, actually work with a guy, hey, this kid, hey, Hayden, I know you haven't played baseball in 8 years. Let's work on this with your swing. And then sometimes the results show through. A major league manager, there's very little he can do to affect on-field play. Really, it boils down to setting the lineup and making pitching changes. So the last game against the Giants, like I said, Roberts put the same exact lineup that scored 10 runs the day before. And the pitchers pitched well. So everything that Dave Roberts had any control over worked out great for the Dodgers in that game against the Giants. What didn't work out, they didn't hit. And, so that's I don't understand the upset. I don't think Dave Roberts is perfect. I am on record saying I think Dave Roberts cost the Dodgers the 2019 NLDS by either by bringing Kershaw in at all in Game 5 or definitely by bringing him back out for the 8th inning. I think it was a terrible idea. I thought so at the time, and I still think so. And they had 8 pitchers available to get 6 outs, and they didn't need to use Clayton Kershaw there. I'm on record with that. I do think that I don't think Dave Roberts makes mistakes as often as a lot of people think he does most of the time. And I've talked about this, the 60-40 decisions. I don't think there's very many clear-cut right or wrong managerial decisions, at least not the ones that get argued about. Yes, don't start Austin Barnes at DH instead of Shohei Ohtani. Easy call. And even then, once in a while, maybe you have to. But that's pretty easy call. But the actual hard calls, the ones that people argue about, there's no clear-cut right and wrong. And just because something works doesn't mean it was right. And just because something doesn't work doesn't mean it was wrong, because there's very few things that work 100% of the time in baseball. As for the bunting, and Craig did mention the bunting, and now he actually brings up another one of my favorite Dave Roberts criticisms. Craig, I think we're friends. You and I, we get along. So I'm going to disagree with you here. I'm not going to, criticize you, but I'm going to disagree with you. Bunting for a hit is valuable. It's very hard to do, especially when you don't do it. And there was a time a year or two ago, Dave Roberts worked hard with his left-handed hitters, Max Muncy and Gavin Lux. And I can't remember who else was on I can't remember what year it was, but worked with them on trying to bunt, because Dave Roberts was a very good bunter in his day. Bunting is very hard. Major league pitchers these days, I think there's a lot of us who grew up in the 80s who saw people bunt for hits back then and think, why can't we go back to that time? Because dudes throw harder now. They have better movement now. It is harder to bunt now than it has ever been. And so bunting for a hit is very hard. If it was easy, or there are probably some people in Major League Baseball who can do it somewhat consistently. I know Garrett Stubbs on the Phillies he's pretty good at bunting for a hit. Guess what? That's because Garrett Stubbs can't get a hit any other way. That's his option. So yeah, Chris Taylor right now, maybe he should be working on bunting, or maybe he shouldn't be on the team. But if Chris Taylor had bunted today, he would have gotten out the more times than he did by not bunting, because he actually got a hit today. So if he had bunted, he would have gotten out every time up instead of 3 out of the 4 times up. And then Craig's other point about Dave Roberts, get yourself thrown out to fire up the players. Major League Baseball players don't need to be fired up. they don't get fired up by their manager getting ejected. They might laugh and have fun, and they might be fired up. They're not going to play any better. And there's zero value in a guy. We have 150 years of baseball evidence showing teams don't play better after their manager gets ejected. There's no long lasting effect. There's no short lasting effect. It makes fans feel better. And that's all. And anyway, there's more to say. Actually, I just realized I forgot to upload my ad breaks. I don't know if you guys have noticed when I'm doing a solo episode, I usually pre-record the ad breaks so that I don't have to. So I get a break from talking, can take a drink. So I'm just uploading my ad break right now. And then I'm going to take my ad break and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about some of the injury news and all of that stuff. So thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. And please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. And back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, you can become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. If you're not already, make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers, where you can text directly with us, get our thoughts on news and stuff, all that stuff. You can follow Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, 24/7 streaming channels. Locked On Sports Los Angeles is the home of the Locked On Dodgers postcast, hosted by Pete Fox after most Dodger games live. It's a lot of fun over there. I know a lot of you who are in this chat also watch that one. And Pete and I, like he said on tonight's postcast, he and I disagree on a fair amount of stuff, and that's okay. There's plenty of different ways to be a Dodger fan, and we're not here to tell you, but we're here to give you our opinions, but not tell you what to think. Also remember, you can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Our Locked On Dodgers insiders did get some text messages today because there was some news. Emmet Sheehan, first it was reported as just UCL surgery, and then later Fabian Ardaya confirmed with a source that it was Tommy John surgery that Emmet Sheehan had. I believe the surgery was today, sometime recently anyway. And so he is out for the rest of this year and probably, well into next year, I would think, because Tommy John surgery, the recovery time is usually at least about a year and often even longer. And so he, that's a bummer for Emmet Sheehan, bummer for the Dodgers who, I like Emmet Sheehan a lot. I think he's a good pitcher. I don't know that it's a backbreaker for the Dodgers right now, just because of who they have. They're already facing a pitching logjam a little bit, especially if they sign Roki Sasaki next year. They've got Landon Knack in AAA. They've got Bobby Miller on the injured list. Both of those guys are major league pitchers. So that's 7 starters right now, plus Clayton Kershaw coming back later this year, hopefully. There's a lot of stuff, so yeah, it's a bummer for Emmet Sheehan, bummer for the Dodgers, but it really doesn't affect the 2024 team very much. I think I had kind of already written off, okay, if we see Emmet Sheehan this year, that's a bonus, but whatever the injury was, we kind of knew it was going to be a while. The other injury news is that Jason Heyward is done with his rehab assignment with Oklahoma City. He played 2 games, as we talked about yesterday, and so he's back with the team. Wasn't activated today. Dave Roberts said it'll be soon. And we talked yesterday about what might happen. And we saw both James Outman and Chris Taylor in the lineup in this game. I think they each struck out 3 times. If I remember right, I know Chris Taylor did get one of the Dodgers 4 hits, but all in all, neither of them looked really good. Let's see. Chris Taylor. Only 2 strikeouts each. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. So 2 strikeouts each. 0 for 3 for Outman, 1 for 4 for Taylor. Struck out to end the game. It was a rough game. And those are the 2 guys. One of those guys is losing his job to Jason Heyward in the next day or 2. And I would guess it's James Outman. I'm still on board with what I said yesterday about make it both of them. And, I don't wish injury on anybody, obviously. But there was that play in tonight's game when Outman and Taylor almost collided in left center field. And I didn't want them to get hurt, but I thought if there had been at least a minor collision, it would have been enough cover for Taylor to have, a bruised thigh or something that they could put him on the injured list for. Because as we've talked about before, I think they could send him to the minors with his permission, but other than Jose Abreu, players never give their permission to be sent to the minors. And I'm only 90% sure that they could. Pretty sure Chris Taylor has 1 option year left that, but he has more than 5 years service time, so they would need his permission. But if that is the case, putting him on the injured list would be a way around that. And so, I didn't hope for anybody to get hurt, but I hoped for some plausible deniability so that they could send both guys down, send Taylor to the injured list, send Outman to AAA, activate Jason Heyward, and call it Miguel Vargas. I believe the time is now. Miguel Vargas has earned his shot to come back up. I don't think he would necessarily be a savior of the bottom of the lineup. I do think he would be better than both Taylor and Outman, even if just putting the ball in play. Like Vargas, even last year when he was terrible, like I pointed out yesterday, he was terrible last year, but he still didn't strike out a ton, and he walked quite a bit. And it was really a low batting average on balls in play, and that might have been bad luck, and he's hit well in AAA this year. He's earned his shot, and it seems like we're about at the point. It was late May last year when Vargas got sent down, and the Dodgers said, okay, Mookie, you're now our second baseman. And so we're kind of far enough in. We talked a month ago about Chris Taylor. It's okay. Well, and we said, well, if it's like late May and he's still this bad, yeah, they got to do something. Guess what? It's May 16th as I'm recording this. We are more than halfway through May. So if there's only early May and late May, we're in late May. Some people think mid-May exists. And so, we might not be in late May yet, but we are knocking on the door of late May, and Chris Taylor is still really bad, still batting below 100. James Outman is really, really struggling. And so one of those guys is definitely going to go somewhere. I'm still hoping for both of them, if not at the same time, at least soon, because I think Miguel Vargas should be up. I talked about this a little bit last night, Elisheva, the thought about Drew Avans. The problem is Drew Avans isn't on the 40-man roster. Neither is Ryan Ward. And that unfortunately means something, because they would have to kick somebody off the 40-man roster in order to call one of those guys up. And there are no position players who make sense to boot off the 40-man roster right now. And so if they were going to call up one of those guys, they would have to probably send a pitcher off the 40-man roster. And then you have an imbalance, and the Dodgers have enough pitching issues right now. I just don't think Drew Avans and Ryan Ward are realistic possibilities right now. I also think, from the other point, you said Vargas had a huge runway and he was terrible. I 100% believe Miguel Vargas is a better hitter than Drew Avans. I like Drew Avans a lot. But Miguel Vargas is a better hitter than Drew Avans. Drew Avans is definitely a better defensive outfielder. But I don't think Drew Avans' defense is as much better as Vargas's offense is. Vargas is a better player. And so Drew Avans, I think it would take some injuries for him to get a shot with the Dodgers. I expect Drew Avans is probably trade bait after this year if he can keep hitting well in AAA. But Miguel Vargas has earned his shot. Jason Heyward will be back. I think we'll get some news on Friday, probably. And we won't be here to talk about it probably until Sunday night. We generally don't do episodes on the weekend. And so, but I mean, if there's huge news, if somebody throws a no-hitter tomorrow, we'll do an episode and then maybe we'll mention who went down for Jason Heyward. But I expect we'll get that news today, or yeah, it's today where I am. It just hit midnight in Utah. So it's now Friday for me. It's almost Friday for you guys. So Friday, we'll probably find out Jason Heyward's activated and who's going down in his stead. I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the craziness at Dodger Stadium with the Shohei Ohtani bobblehead and how crazy things were and some things that the Dodgers might be able to do to alleviate that the next time. So thanks again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's right. Make one bet of at least $5 that you're sure about, and if you win, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, I'm back. Thanks again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Especially thank you to our everydayers. Please become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. Become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. And catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app simply by searching for Dodgers. I listened to an inning or so of the game on SiriusXM in my car tonight. I was driving home from coaching my son's team, and one of the fun little Easter eggs, if you're listening on SiriusXM and it's a Dodgers home game, you get the Dodgers radio announcers, and every once in a while during a commercial break, you get to hear my voice doing a commercial for this podcast. And it still blows my kids' minds every time. It's pretty fun. But it was Shohei Ohtani bobblehead night, the first of two that the Dodgers are doing this year. And it was crazy. I had a friend who got there to the stadium at about 3:30. So almost 4 hours before game time. And the line to get into the parking lot was already over a mile long, at least at the lot he went to. The lines to get into the stadium were crazy, and they didn't do early entry for season ticket holders like they do most home games. I don't know if, like, it seems like that would have been a good idea to do the early entry, because then you alleviate some of the crowd at least. And maybe it's the former season ticket holder speaking, but I do think being able to make sure you get your Ohtani bobblehead ought to be a perk of having season tickets. But they didn't. But they did open the gates early for everybody. Normally they open them at 5:10. They open them at 4:40, and it. I did see some people. I saw somebody in the chat in the postcast saying that they went to the game and didn't get an Ohtani bobblehead. The Dodgers are better than most teams, better than all teams at bobbleheads. They do more bobblehead giveaways, and most teams, I don't know if you guys know this, most teams only do 10 or 15,000 bobbleheads on each bobblehead giveaway. The Dodgers do 40,000 every time. And I think that's awesome. And I think that we need to appreciate that. But I also think, and this is a case of one of my pet peeves, me telling somebody else how to spend their money. But I believe that for the Shohei Ohtani bobblehead, and any bobblehead they expect to be super popular like this, they should make 55,000 of them instead of 40,000, because and open the stadium earlier, and open it up for everybody at 4:10, 3 hours before game time. Say everybody who shows up to the stadium, there was 53,000 and change at this game. So make 55,000. Everybody who comes to the stadium is getting a bobblehead, and we're opening up early. We're opening up concessions early. Guess what? If you open up concessions 3 hours early, you're paying for those bobbleheads. People started drinking 3 hours early. You're paying for those extra 15,000 bobbleheads. And it would be like, I don't know how you draw the line, how you decide which bobbleheads are popular enough to justify doing the extras. Maybe just do all of them. I know they don't want to end up with leftover bobbleheads. Like in 2020, they had already made some bobbleheads that they then had, and they gave some away during the pandemic, and then they did giveaways in 2020. You remember the commercial they had in 2021 of like these dusty bobbleheads being pulled out and talking to each other. They don't want to have leftover bobbleheads after a bobblehead night happens, but I think that would be better than some of this hassle. And it does, when you do 40,000, it's I think it's more disappointing. When there's only 10,000, people show up to the game and they understand, oh, I didn't get here early enough to get a bobblehead. Oh, well, my bad. When there's 40,000, I think it causes more discontent for the people who don't, especially if it's because the parking lot was backed up or because their gate ran out of bobbleheads before another gate did. All those things, like I feel like, and Craig has a good point. Give them a rain check. If you didn't get a bobblehead, and that's true. They could fix this. They could, hey, guess what? If I don't know how they could, because there's no way to prove you didn't get a bobblehead. So maybe they can't fix this one after the fact. But for the next bobblehead of Ohtani, which is, I believe, in September, but they're doing a Mookie Betts one soon. Mookie's going to be popular. Not as crazy as Ohtani, but I'd say some of these more popular ones make 55,000. Make sure that everybody who comes to the stadium, especially because like the tickets for this game were crazy expensive. They cost more retail, like the sticker price, the ticket price from the Dodgers directly was higher for this game. The resale market was even crazier. People paid a lot of money to go to this game, and it was to get the Shohei Ohtani bobblehead. And so I could see being pretty frustrated. I paid $200 a ticket, and it was so crazy crowded that I didn't even get there in time to get a bobblehead. I'd be frustrated. I wouldn't let that happen to myself. I would have been there outside the parking lot gates at 1 p.m. today because that's I'm always way too early to everything because I build in way too much extra time. But, I don't think it's the fault of everybody who didn't get a bobblehead. I remember in 2022, was that the year the Dodgers got no hit by the Cubs, the combined no hitter on Cody Bellinger bobblehead night? So I still had my season tickets back then, and I had a whole row of 8 seats down in section 41 or 43, I can't remember, on field level. Had 8 seats, and I was using all 8 that night. It was me and my wife and all 3 of our kids and 2 of my son's friends and my brother. So we were taking up the whole row, all 8 seats. So we had 8 bobbleheads, and we got there early. We did the early entry for season ticket holders. And then there was some guy sitting 2 rows behind me who spent the whole game complaining to me that I wouldn't sell him, that I wouldn't give him one of my bobbleheads because I had all 8 bobbleheads in a bag. So he sees me with 8 bobbleheads. I'm like, dude, I have 8 people with me. We all came to this game to get this bobblehead. Everybody in my group wants their bobblehead. I'm sorry. And then he kept harassing me to give him one. And so finally I looked on eBay. I said, okay, they're going for $60. I'll sell you one for $60 if you want. You don't have to pay for shipping. And he cussed me out like I'm being some greedy. It's like, I brought 8 people to the game. We got 8 bobbleheads, dude. But we do have a comment here. Somebody who got there at 6 and didn't get the bobblehead. That's not why they were going. So yeah, hopefully most of the people who didn't get it weren't there specifically for the bobblehead. But yeah, I imagine there was some upset people right now. And then you go and the game sucks too. And it's just overall a bad night. If you don't get the bobblehead that you paid a lot of money to get, and then your favorite team plays like crap, that's for a rough night. Probably not as rough a night as Vince, who is probably still sitting in the Dodger Stadium parking lot. I wonder if he is still in the parking lot, Vince. We'll see. I'll notify you live if he replies to me, and we'll see if he's still there. But either way, yeah, that's my thoughts. Like I didn't talk much about this game. That the postcast talked a lot about the game specifically. There's not much to say about a game like this other than turn the page. The Dodgers had 2 streaks broken. They allowed more than 4 runs for the first time in 23 games. And they went their second straight game without an extra base hit. I didn't realize this one until Eric Karras mentioned it in the 8th inning Dodgers hadn't gone back-to-back games without an extra base hit since the first 2 games of 2018. Remember those 2 games? Dodgers lost back-to-back games 1-0 to the Giants. I know Joe Panik hit a home run off Clayton Kershaw in the first game, and it was about as cheap as Mike Yastrzemski's home run yesterday. And then the second game, I know I wasn't at the game. I think Kenley Jansen gave up the run in the 9th inning. It couldn't blow a save because Dodgers didn't score. I was actually at a Lakers-Bucks game that night with my kids. But that was the last time Dodgers went 2 straight games without an extra base hit. That was the longest streak in Major League Baseball. Now the Angels actually hold the longest streak of not going back-to-back games without an extra base hit. They haven't done it since like 2 weeks after that in 2018. So anyway, the streaks are broken, which means, hey, let's win the next 3 games of this series, get an angry win on Friday, and get a couple, nice, easy 7-1 wins Saturday and Sunday, win the series, get back on track, and call it good. That's about all I have for tonight. Thanks for being with me, guys. I wasn't sure how I was going to do a solo episode, so doing it live, having you guys to talk with makes it easier. Hopefully my voice will feel better over the weekend, and I will be back to full strength by Sunday night. Hopefully we'll go live again Sunday night. But thanks for being with us. Thank you to all of you listening after the fact, either on YouTube or on a podcast. Thanks to our everydayers. Remember that you can become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. You can make that easy on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM and the SXM app just by searching for Dodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Our DMs are open for both of us there. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com. And our phone number for voicemail or text messages is 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We will talk to you on Sunday night.